Well, hello and welcome to the 46th episode of Circus History Live. I'm Bruce Hawley, president of the Circus Historical Society. Circus History Live is produced monthly by the CHS, and recordings of previous sessions are available on the CHS YouTube channel. Our guests for tonight's program are Lisa Lewis, founder of Omnium Circus, and Rik Daniels, dancer and acrobat with Omnium Circus. And now, without further ado, here's the host of Circus History Live, Chris Berry. Chris?
Thanks so much, Bruce. I am very excited about tonight's episode of Circus History Live. We've got a couple of very, very talented people who really have reimagined what the circus can be. Lisa Lewis, who has been with us previously on an earlier episode of Circus History Live, and Rik Daniels, who has joining us now for the first time, but certainly is quite a performer in his own right. I wanted to talk a little bit specifically about Omnium Circus, which Lisa started right in the middle of COVID, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But what makes tonight's episode a little bit different is some of the research and some of the explanations that Lisa has been giving about sideshows. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about tonight. So Lisa, welcome first off. So tell us, just for those who don't know, how did Omnium come about and what is the real idea behind it?
So Omnium Circus came about after years of working in Access and working with Big Apple Circus that you all know, because I see some people there that I know from there. And it was really in response to all of the audiences that came and wanted greater access. So families who had kids with disabilities, or one child that had this need, another child that had that access need, another child that had the other access need. And they were never able to come to one show because Access was only delivered on a single show. And I really wanted to see what would be possible. Could we create a show that would have all access for everyone at all times? And along with that, of course, came the pairing of representation. I wanted our audiences, which at Big Apple were New York City audiences, and now for Omnium, they're national audiences. But I wanted everyone in the audience to feel connected and feel represented, so that the circus itself would be representative of the beautiful mosaic that is our humanity and that is our circus community, and that everyone could come whenever they wanted to have access. So that was kind of the idea that started it, and we're about 30% persons with disabilities performing. And we're a not-for-profit. Our organization is well over 40% persons with disabilities. And we are the mixture and the melange that is human.
And we're going to talk about that and how that's been a part of circus history for a long time. But I want to introduce everyone to Rik Daniels. Rik Daniels is one of those beautiful people that makes up the tapestry of American entertainment today. But he's much, much more than that. Rik started as truly a poster child for the March of Dimes. He went on to become not only a gymnast, but a champion gymnast when it comes to the pommel horse. 7-time NCAA All-American on the pommel horse. And, of course, you do it from a wheelchair, which I think is what makes it very unique. So tell us about how you got into performing and how you made sure that your disability did not slow you down.
So I'm a natural born. My body is very unique. And so when you're a spectacle, as the circus is, you inevitably become a performer. I'm actually a 7-time NCAA All-American, but it's on pommel horse, parallel bars, and rings.
Oh, wow.
And combined 7 times. So I began breakdancing in the Bronx, where I grew up. And I learned how to jump rope on my hands, play hopscotch on my hands. It was never a question of if I would do anything growing up, but a matter of how. And so I like to say I didn't adapt or overcome anything. I simply became that which I am because I've never known a different body. And so I use the unique body I have in the unique ways that I do. And then I became a competitive gymnast in high school and went on to university or college level, and that's where I became an All-American gymnast. I became a performer in 2012. I did performance art, And out of that, I began modeling and contemporary dance and went on to wheelchair ballroom Latin dance. I started working with the local circus community here in Ithaca, New York, circus culture, and then in 2021, I was invited to be part of my first professional circus production. From there, I was referred to Lisa and began performing with Omnium Circus in early 2022.
And quite a performer you are. You know, if you have an opportunity to see circus, the Omnium Circus, it's a unique experience in so many ways. And as Lisa said, we see it all over the country. So probably at some point, hopefully in the coming year, you'll have an opportunity to go see Omnium. But Lisa, let's talk now about a little bit about how you were questioned about some of the performers and so forth, and then you began this project on sideshows.
Yeah, so when I first put the project out, we would get one of two responses. One would be, oh, this is great, we love the inclusion. Or we would get, are you a sideshow? What are you doing? Are you just displaying people with disabilities? No, obviously not. But people were confused because so many people have misconceptions and different perspectives of what the world is and what a sideshow is and what a circus is. And so it just kind of bothered me. And then I was asked last year by circus fans, by Jan, to write a grant proposal. And I said, okay, here's something I want to do. I really want to explain to people what is sideshow, put it in historical context, because I'm tired of people saying idiotic things to me that were kind of insulting. I mean, I would have people say to me, well, I'm not going to book your show because I don't want my kid to sit next to somebody in a wheelchair. What planet do you live on? But I wanted to begin to dispel some of those rumors so that people could genuinely understand the history and the context in which things occurred. Because what happened then isn't going to happen now, right? The world evolves.
So we've talked a little bit about Barnum. We've talked a little bit about Ward Hall. We're going to talk about both of those, sideshow impresarios really in coming up here. We have a little presentation. It's actually a 4-part presentation that we'll watch all 4 parts here. But if we're ready to go, let's roll number 1 there, Lisa.
All right. Well, I'm going to start it with a caveat. This was created and intended for a lay audience. So if any of you out there, and I know some do, have PhDs in circus and sideshow, you know more than I do. We know this. Also, please know that this was written with people with disabilities. It's not an extra thing. It's inclusive in its very core and its very writing. So please know that I'm not saying things about people nothing about us without us, right?
Sounds good.
Let's attempt to share, and this is part 1 of 4. Play.
So you might just want to make sure.
Sideshow to Circus, the evolution of perspectives on disability. Hello and welcome to Sideshow to Circus, the evolution of perspectives on disability. This is a 4-part social media series sponsored by the Edith Johnson Memorial Fund and Omnium Circus to expand understanding of the world in which we live, how we got here, and the role of popular entertainment in both reflecting and shaping common perspectives. Please enjoy this trip through time. Part 1, Historical Highlights. With limited entertainment options in an era of minimal mass media, early audiences flocked to dime museums and sideshows out of curiosity and fascination. Scientific understanding of physical and developmental differences was still embryonic, allowing lots of room for imagination and speculation. Sensational marketing and the promise of the unknown offered rare glimpses beyond everyday life. Even before the sideshow, there were traveling exhibits called dime museums, which featured human curiosities, on record as early as the mid to late 1700s. The height of the American sideshow is considered 1840 to 1940. The attachment to traveling circus amplified its reach, peaking around the 1870s. History. The 1840s saw the beginnings of the establishment of institutions specifically for people with disabilities. Though originally claiming to provide education and training, they quickly devolved. People with disabilities were considered unemployable, misunderstood anomalies to be feared due to lack of understanding. The American School for the Deaf, which opened in 1817, became an asylum by 1875. Meanwhile, in the sideshow, Barnum tantalized audiences with a forbidden peek into the world unknown to most. Behind the scenes, he was also known for generally fair and often quite high payments to his performers, especially at his American Museum, permanent exhibit offering steady employment for many. While the sideshow and dime museum exhibits did provide some performers with a lifeline amidst challenging circumstances, it likely hindered broader acceptance and inclusion by amplifying the dominant attitudes of the time, perpetuating harmful stereotypes and social divisions. Meanwhile, in the sideshow, a portrait of sideshow performers, including giants Anna Swan, Noah Orr, and Monsieur Joseph, little people Lizzie Reed and Edward Newell, and brothers Amos and Charlie Gorin, who had albinism. History. American slavery, believed to have begun in 1619, was not abolished until 1865. Even though enslavement was technically abolished, tenets of discourse against Black, brown, African American, and indigenous persons endured. This was also reflected in the sideshow. Meanwhile, in the sideshow, in 1738, a colonial newspaper announced what's considered to be the first sideshow in North America. The blurb highlights an enslaved woman from West Africa, 4 feet tall, and with features the writer compares to an ape. History. In 1907, a widespread eugenic sterilization law meant that many disabled people were blocked from having children. Many doctors believed that premature babies should be left to die. Meanwhile, in the sideshow, Martin Cuny, dubbed the incubator doctor, is credited with saving over 6,500 premature babies by incorporating them into his exhibits. Cuny did not charge the parents of his patients for their care. He made up the costs of caring for the infants through the entrance fees during the exhibitions. Cuny had 2 exhibits in Coney Island, one in Luna Park from 1903 to 1943, and another in Dreamland from 1904 until the fire of 1911. History. The first women's suffrage organizations were established in 1869. Women had no vote and often worked long hours for low wages. Women of color had even fewer options. Meanwhile, in the sideshow, women performers often earned more than men. Betty Lou Williams was reported to have commanded $1,000 a week in her early 20s and was able to support her family, providing an education for her 11 siblings. History. 1920. Women get the vote, though it would take until 1965 for racial discrimination to become outlawed in the voting process. Meanwhile, in the sideshow, 1931, Violet and Daisy Hilton, British conjoined twins in America, become legally emancipated. Stay tuned for the next fascinating episode of Sideshow to Circus, the evolution of perspectives on disability.
So I think you can.
Perspective, entertainment.
Oh, shush.
Please enjoy this trip through.
Okay, so I think that you will agree. It's really kind of an interesting project that Lisa's been working on, and I love the fact that it's for the lay audience to give people an opportunity to really become educated. Rik, I want to talk to you a little bit about your career. Really, you talked about how you started performing really as a breakdancer, and the fact that your body is what it is. I mean, this is what you are accustomed to, but going out there in front of hundreds and maybe thousands of people and performing, I mean, how is that? You know that people are probably surprised by what they're seeing. How do you feel about that?
So, as I mentioned, when you're a spectacle throughout my life at the earliest, age, you look out at the world and it's looking at you. When you use a wheelchair, when you don't look like others, when you are other, you essentially are on a stage. And so at some point I realized there was an empowerment around it, that it was nice to be celebrated for the things I could do that were unexpected. And it was also a positive thing that people that were surprised were also inspired and educated, because I really believe that the best form of advocacy is just being your authentic self and allowing people to know that, you are not necessarily defined in their eyes, and you're not necessarily beholden to their perceptions, stereotypes, stigmas, or expectations.
Very interesting. Lisa, do you have part 2 queued up and ready to go?
I do. We'll see if it works.
Sideshow to Circus, the evolution of perspectives on disability. Welcome back to Sideshow to Circus, the evolution of perspectives on disability. This post, Myth versus Reality, the Performer Experience, is part 2 of a 4-part social media series sponsored by the Edith Johnson Memorial Fund and Omnium Circus to expand understanding of the world in which we live and how we got here. In this series, we explore the lives of early sideshow performers with disabilities. Popular jargon called them natural borns, those born with a physical feature that would lead to their sideshow career. History. Though marketed as curiosities and celebrated for their perceived strangeness, many natural borns led rich lives beyond the stage. Their stories reveal both exploitation and resilience. The myth. Myrtle Corbett, 1868 to 1928, entered the sideshow circuit with the moniker Four-Legged Girl from Texas. A myth because she hailed from Tennessee. Born with 2 pelvises and 4 legs, she became such a phenomenon that people pretended to be her for years after she stopped performing. The reality. Unbeknownst to sideshow audiences, Myrtle was very intelligent and believed to have as gentle of a disposition as the summer sunshine and is as happy as the day is long. Myrtle became happily married with 4 daughters and 1 son. Associates called her a refined woman of some musical taste. The myth. Prince Randian, born without limbs, became a star for performing tasks with his mouth, such as rolling cigarettes, shaving, and painting. Billed as the Pillow Man, the Human Caterpillar, and a variety of other names, the myths overshadowed the truth of his humanity. The reality. Guyanese born with tetraamelia syndrome, the 18-year-old was brought by P.T. Barnum to the U.S., where he'd spend 45 years as a popular attraction. In 1932, he was featured in the film Freaks. Privately, he was known for his intellect and spoke 6 languages. He supported his 5 children on his performance pay. The myth. Exhibited for his dwarfism, General Tom Thumb's story was based on a fictional character from English folklore, and he was given the myth of military status. The reality. His real name was Charles Sherwood Stratton, and he became a very wealthy global celebrity and is rumored to have supplied financing for his boss later in life. The myth. A pair of albino Black American brothers named Willie and George Muse were kidnapped somewhere between 1911 and 1914. They were put on display as Echo and Iko and advertised as Ecuadorian cannibals or men from Mars, a myth clearly created to generate ticket sales. The reality. In 1927, Willie and George reunited with their mother, who sued the Sideshow owner and won. The brothers then rejoined the tour and performed nationwide as the talented musicians they were, later retiring quietly to Roanoke, Virginia. The myth. Schlitzie, a man with microencephaly, was known as the Pinhead. Along with his live performances, he was featured in the 1932 film Freaks. Schlitzie was fancifully billed as Maggie, the last of the Aztec children. The reality. Rumored to have been sold to a circus by his parents due to his cognitive disabilities and appearance, Schlitzie was described by those who knew him as affectionate and sociable, loving to dance and sing. Members of his sideshow and circus community showed compassion and care. His story reflects a world of cruelty, kindness, and complex social bonds. Stay tuned for the next fascinating episode of Sideshow to Circus, the evolution of perspectives on disability.
So, Rik, I want to bring you back into the discussion here. So you're a natural born. Anyone you use a wheelchair, but I would never say you're confined to a wheelchair, because having seen you perform and knowing that, as you said earlier, you were a 7-time NCAA All-American on the pommel horse, parallel bars, and the steel rings. You are very much an athlete. I think you're muted right now, but maybe you can tell us about your act and exactly what people see when they come to Omnium Circus.
Thank you for reminding me to unmute. So my choreography was created with a piece of music that I love, The Marriage of Figaro. And I love how punctuated it is. The choreography originally was just designed in line with the music and with movements that I cherry picked from throughout my career and kind of put together. The personality of the piece actually didn't manifest until I started to perform it. And so in the end, it actually developed its own being, really, which is like I called it finding balance. And it's a way of finding balance between, being who you are and living with, the circumstances that you have. So I dance with the chair and then I dance without the chair. And it's this kind of like tug of war or like playful exploration and experience of living with the body, and the wheelchair becomes kind of a partner in some instances. And then in the end, it is not a part of the performance. It's ultimately relegated where it belongs, which is separate from who I am. And I am simply, being with the audience. There's one particular part where I stand on my legs, and I can't do it very well, but it's really important that that I'm just authentically being with people in a way that might be seen as vulnerable. Even though I don't feel vulnerable, I'm okay with the body I have. So when I try to stand and I can't, I think it's really great that the audience sees and I invite them to kind of laugh with me at my circumstance because I'm being okay with who I am. And
And
so,
it's
yeah,
fun. It's fun, and the circus is fun, right?
exactly.
So you're watching Circus History Live. This is our monthly get together to talk about the history of the history of the circus today, the history of the circus in the past, and maybe even the history of the circus in the future, especially as it appeals to Omnium and what Lisa is doing with her show. I also want to encourage you, if you aren't already a member of the Circus Historical Society, you can go to circushistory.org and join us. You get our Bandwagon magazine, which is a journal that comes out 4 times a year, along with other benefits. And we have our annual convention. We just had one in Las Vegas, which was quite successful. But I want to go back to you, Lisa, because I know you have 2 more parts here to talk about, and then we can kind of fill in the blanks.
Sure. Should I play the next part 3?
Let's do it.
All right. One more attempt at Lisa sharing screens. I'm getting good at this.
Yes, you are.
She says as she messes up. There we go.
Sideshow to circus, the evolution of perspectives on
We're hearing it, not
disability.
seeing it.
Hello and welcome to
Are you hearing it
Sideshow
okay?
to circus.
We
the
do not
evolution
see
of
it. We hear
perspectives
it.
on disability.
Hang on.
Let's re-rack that and start it over. It's all part of the act, folks. This is the part we didn't rehearse, right?
Yeah, sorry about that. Let's try this again.
This is a 4-part social
that
media
working?
series
No, we're not
sponsored
seeing
by
it.
the Edith Johnson Memorial Fund,
For some reason,
Omnium Circus. Expect
Talk amongst
So-
yourselves.
While you're looking at that,
There it is.
Yep.
Oh, all right.
and understand
That work?
the world in which we live, how we got here, and the role of popular entertainment in both reflecting and shaping common perspectives. Please enjoy this trip through time. From women's suffrage and the abolition of slavery to developments in disability care, access, and inclusion, public attitudes towards different finally began to evolve. Movements for civil rights, education, and medical ethics challenged sideshow norms and began to redefine representation. Empathy and understanding began to confront fear and misinformation. And audiences continued to love a spectacle. Introduction. Thrilling acts such as the human blockhead, sword swallowers, fire eaters, strongmen, snake charmers, and those performing on a bed of nails became more popular. Natural born artists reclaimed their bodies and their narratives away from being exhibits and towards affirming their talents as performers, proud of their craft. This evolution helped propel the sideshow to maintain its vibrancy as a vital part of popular entertainment. Ward Hall opened his first sideshow in 1951, traveling the country for the next 70 plus years, becoming one of the most successful showmen in American history. Hall achieved his circus dreams, and as the founder of World of Wonders, helped other performers from all walks of life achieve their dreams as well. History. Jim Crow laws continued until the 1960s. The civil rights movement led the way toward the end of legalized segregation. Meanwhile, in the sideshow, by the late 1960s, freak shows were coming under attack as demeaning to people with disabilities. Mr. Hall maintained that the sideshow was one of the few places where people with these conditions could make a decent living. He told the New York Times in 2006 they were hams, but they could never be actors. Who's putting a bearded lady or a one-armed girl in a leading role on Broadway? This was the first step towards equal opportunity and fair representation, which was still years in the future. History. The 504 sit-in, a 1977 28-day sit-in protest spearheaded by the disability community, led to the federal enforcement of protections granted by the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. Meanwhile, in the Sideshow, in 1972, Ward Hall brought a successful court case in Florida against a statute that prohibited, quote, the exhibition for pay or compensation of any crippled or physically distorted, malformed, or disfigured person in any circus, sideshow, or other place where admission fee is charged. He argued that the law deprived people like CeeLo the Seal Bull, one of the named plaintiffs, of the right to earn a living. In 1972, the Florida Supreme Court agreed. History. Deaf President Now was a 1988 protest at Gallaudet University. Students demanded a deaf president and greater deaf representation. The protest was successful and a major milestone in deaf rights and activism. The Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, passed in 1990, banning disability-based discrimination in the U.S. and ensuring reasonable access and accommodation. Meanwhile, in the Sideshow, by the 1970s, the tradition of sideshow was relegated to infrequent occurrences and continued to evolve. Freaks were now thankfully acknowledged as ordinary people defined by their extraordinary appearances. Born different performers have found a community within their sideshows. Many retired peacefully to Gibson, Florida, also known as Gibtown or Showtown, USA. History. World was changing. Shifting policy outcomes and activist groundswells in the United States led to changing cultural mindsets, which has shaped how society views race, disability, and other marginalized groups today. Meanwhile, in the Sideshow, circus and sideshow evolve as art forms reflecting the skills, talents, and gifts each individual chooses to share with their audiences, and the audience's expectation to be entertained by professional artists. The 21st century ushers in a new incarnation of sideshow. Performers with disabilities began to create an advocacy and a pathway towards the main event. 21st century sideshow culture celebrated artistry and reclaimed identity. In 1985, the Coney Island Circus Sideshow once again began presenting shows all summer long. Coney Island, USA Sideshows by the Seashore markets a family-friendly show featuring acts such as sword swallowers, fire eaters, glass walkers, aerial, and variety artists. They own both the history and its evolution in their statement. We're rooted in 1923, but we realize it's 2025. The diverse cast and employees want you to know that everyone is welcome here. Stay tuned for the next fascinating episode of Sideshow to Circus.
Rik, again, I'm going to throw it back to you here. You know, when you look at this and you think of the fact that you are, and your mic is muted, that you are really, you know, a natural born. You're a performer who takes the stage. I mean, when you're there, you really truly command it. What's it like for you encouraging others who might have similar situations with their bodies?
One of the things I like about this particular series is that it isn't just about disability. When Lisa first contacted me and was describing the access nature and the intention of presenting disability as the art, if you will, right, as an aspect, I was initially like, I don't want to be part of a disability circus. But then I started seeing the diversity, equity, and inclusion that, you know, this series is really, you know, there's no singular intersectional identity. And so for me, it was like I didn't want to just be seen as any individual aspect of who I am because we're all multifaceted and there's a spectrum of being not only within each of us but within the community. And so, one of the things about Omnium that I love is that it really affords the audiences to see that spectrum, and we're cooperating and we're celebrating each of our individual skill set. None of us are the same and we're all doing different things. For me personally, it's rewarding. My mom imbued in me the reality that I'm whole and perfect just the way I am, and I always say that without expectations, we're less likely to develop aspirations or the ability to achieve them. And so, being a part of Omnium and touring the country, I'm gonna cry. They love when I interview because I always cry, but like I feel like I'm fulfilling the unique purpose God created me for. And sometimes it takes us a lifetime. I'm 57 now, and you go through life and you sort of do this, that, or the other, and you never know where it's going to bring you. But inevitably, the reason you're created, um, if your heart is in the right place, it always finds you. And so that's for me, it's you ask what it means to me to do this and enlighten and educate people and inspire them. Um, as Lisa says, we're changing the flipping world. And so it moves me to know that I can be a small part, no pun intended, of that.
Lisa, for those who haven't seen Omnium, tell them what it's like. I mean, from the moment that a person walks in, and I'm talking about people who do not have a disability. These are just, people who are coming in off the street. You create an environment there where no parent should be afraid to have their child come. In fact, hopefully by the time the circus is over with that day, they've learned a lot more about people.
One of my favorite quotes from a patron of ours who sent me a letter, actually, a hard copy letter afterwards, which I thought was amazing. But she wrote us this beautiful letter saying how the experience had affected her. She'd brought her great niece, a neurotypical child with no obvious disabilities, who happened to sit next to another child of the same age who happened to be deaf. The two of them were 6 years old. Children have no guile. They made immediate friends. They figured out how to communicate. And her letter said, this is exactly what life should be. Children need to learn from each other that we each have our strengths and that everyone can be just as smart as you are.
But even when they walk in, I mean, you kind of test their senses, right? Tell me about that.
So when people walk in, they'll find a tactile table, a touch table. I've got little mini props out from the show. And it was originally intended for people who are blind so that they could feel the props because they're about to hear the entire show described to them audio. So we have audio description at every show so that people who are blind and don't perceive things through their eyes can perceive the show through their ears. So then we have those little props out there and we found out that everybody likes them. They're actually just really fun. So that door blew wide open. The show is done in both English and American Sign Language. We have typically had 2 ringmasters, one hearing, one deaf. So it's delivered in 2 languages. The show is sensory friendly. The whole thing is sensory friendly. You don't have to ask for it to be. It just is. 3-year-olds don't like loud noises in general. You don't need to be on the autism spectrum to want something a little more comfortable for your ears. Everything is captioned because people read captions. Whether you don't need them, don't look at them. It's okay. But it allows everybody to have the access that they need without asking. And if you don't need it, good, fine. You just look at a fabulous show. You watch Rik flipping over his wheelchair. You watch Tirsa bounce juggling. You watch a really great show. Noe Espana, who many of you know, writes the show, directs it, creates it, and he's brilliant.
And as you said, about 40% of the team has some disability, right?
And that includes our tech team. That
That's
goes
fantastic.
boardroom to tech table because, as Rik said, you have to be authentic.
Why don't we see part 4 of the series here?
All
And
right.
again, as you said, this is designed for a lay audience, really to kind of educate them about sideshows and also disabilities in the circus.
All right.
The dawning of an age of respect. Hello and welcome to Sideshow to Circus, the evolution of perspectives on disability. This is part 4 of a 4-part social media series sponsored by the Edith Johnson Memorial Fund and Omnium Circus to expand understanding of the world in which we live, how we got here, and the role of popular entertainment in both reflecting and shaping common perspectives. Please enjoy this trip through time. Welcome to today. From the sideshow to the main event, the circus. From exhibition to talented feature artist. Performers with disabilities began to own the spotlight, claiming their place alongside their equally talented peers in the exhilarating world of the circus. Popular culture now understands that disability is a natural part of human life. 25% of all people globally are born with a disability, and 90% of us join the community at some point in our lives. Audiences of all abilities deserve to see themselves authentically represented in mainstream entertainment. Today, we have claimed what Ward Hall said could never exist. People with disabilities are on Broadway in film, television, commercials, and of course, the circus. Expanding American Circus. The first American circus is reported to have been in 1793 in Philadelphia. It showcased a variety of acts, including equestrian performances, tightrope walking, and clowning. This was the main event, adjacent to the sideshow. There were approximately 30 plus circuses touring the country during the 19th and 20th century. Today, there are 41. The culture of circus has always been one of acceptance. There are many jobs to be done and work for anyone who's willing to work hard and learn. While the country was still segregated, a young talent happened upon the great animal trainer, circus owner Clyde Beatty. Beatty began working with then 13-year-old Emmanuel Jr. Ruffin as a cage boy mucking out stalls. He saw a great talent, and by 20, Ruffin had taken center stage under the moniker Prince Bogino. Beatty believed that American audiences would accept Jr. if he were a foreigner instead of an African American. Jr. continued to challenge race barriers, becoming the first African American to be inducted into the Ring of Fame, the highest honor there is for American circus artists. Integration of skilled artists of a wide variety of body types has been peppered throughout the world of circus. Accessibility for those in the audience with disabilities has been infrequent. Both Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, and the Big Apple Circus have had programs providing access such as ASL interpreters and audio description for select groups. Access has not been consistently available to a broader audience. Realizing a need for both representation and access, longtime circus performer Lisa B. Lewis saw an opportunity. In 2020, Omnium, a bold new circus, was born and quickly became a leader in the next step of the evolution of American circus by highlighting artists with disabilities for their incredible talent and assuring audiences with disabilities have the access they need to engage in every performance alongside their families, friends, and community. Around the world. Across the world, disability advocacy is gaining strength. There's a modern day recognition of the need for opportunity and access for all. In the US and globally, the circus, along with all popular entertainment, is shifting to a more holistic, empowering performance model based on storytelling and shared joy. England. Billy Allwyn and Julian Bracey, co-artistic directors, circus artists, entrepreneurs, and creative directors who met in the 90s in Bristol in a performance collective, saw a gap in the market for an accessible and popular form of modern circus and formed Cirque Bijou in 1999. They are a great inspiration for Omnium Circus and many others. Ethiopia. Teklu Ashagir Circus with Debre Berhan, also known as Circus for All, trains youth of all abilities, creating art, not spectacle. Portugal, Morocco, Afghanistan, and the US. Social circuses and integrative dance companies are using training and performance to build confidence, belonging, and agency. The many intersections of race, gender, economics, and disability politics means that for many American sideshow and circus performers in a rapidly changing world, life continues to be challenging. But with women's suffrage, the abolition of slavery, and ever-increasing awareness and advocacy around disability, these artists established more autonomy as individuals and now continue to gain more control over their lives and careers. Global audiences are ready to cheer them on. This is the modern spectacle of skill, bravery, and talent we want in our popular entertainment. And audiences continue to love the spectacle. Today, you can see Omnium Circus perform across the country. Celebrating our 5th birthday, we've won numerous awards, toured 17 states, and entertained 140,000 people. For more information and to support this innovative and groundbreaking not-for-profit organization, please visit omniumcircus.org. Omnium Circus, where the magic of circus meets the power of inclusion. Thank you for joining us on this trip through time.
Really fantastic, Lisa, what you've done over the past 5 years. Rik, I'm going to ask you to open up your mic again because I have a question for you. When you're traveling, I mean, 140,000 people, that's fantastic, 17 states. But when you're traveling around the country, one of the great things that I love about Omnium is that when the show's over with, the performers come down and meet people in the audience. What's it like for you when some kid comes up to you and basically says something like, he's like I am?
It's amazing, really. It's just to know that you are planting seeds of possibility in people, and beyond the children themselves, their support networks, the parents or whoever accompanied them, begin to see possibility, and beyond the children. So we had one young woman, I say relatively young compared to me, but she was a veteran who wound up with a prosthesis. And I get all cry because after our show, she shared with one of the folks who brought her that she believed that she could do things. And this was a woman who wouldn't leave her home. She was embarrassed with this new identity. She did not know how to be, who she was anymore, or this new quote unquote person that she was in the world and in the eyes of the world. And after seeing our show, she realized that, she could do anything she wanted to, and that, and so that, knowing that you're changing the world in that way is really empowering. And children in particular are really authentic. They will say things like, you have little feet, and parents are often embarrassed by that. But I'm like, you're right, I do have little feet, and so it's really wonderful. Children in particular, and their authenticity and their unabashed truth, to speak is really very empowering for everyone around us in those moments, as much as it is to them.
Well, you're very impressive with what you have done, and thank you for joining us, Lisa. omniumcircus.org. It's a fantastic organization. If you have an opportunity to support it, I urge you to do so. Omniumcircus.org. Lisa, you have traveled 17 states. I know that in 2026, you are going to be out there again, coast to coast, right?
Pretty much coast to coast. We're all over a map. My company teases me all the time that I throw darts at a map when I book our tours. It's not quite that way, but it's close.
But I know you're going to be in Washington, D.C., which has always been a great location for you. You're going to be back in Arizona, which is terrific. We wish you the very best moving forward. I want to thank you and Rik for joining us today. Again, it's Circus History Live. We get together every month, really, to talk about the history of the circus in the past and the present and the future. And I'm going to turn it back to you, Bruce.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. Awesome. And I'd like to thank Lisa, of course, and Rik for doing a wonderful job and a terrific program. Of course, Chris Berry, our host. And behind the scenes, Anya Norris, who does our social media and recording and placing of our program up on our YouTube channel. And finally, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this evening for this program of Circus History Live. If you're not already a member of the CHS, please come join us. Dues are only $60 a year. As Chris mentioned earlier, you receive our quarterly bandwagon journal, which ranges between 75 and 100 pages every quarter of beautifully researched circus articles, circus history articles. And it's a collector item. They go back to 1939, but you have access to that, and of course some other benefits as well. Just go to circushistory.org and click the join button to find out more about that. As a heads up, our 2026 annual convention is going to be held in Baraboo, Wisconsin, in connection with Circus World Museum. It's going to be June 10 through 13. The convention will include access to the visits to the museum itself, the circus parade in Baraboo, and many other activities, and of course, several presentations. The Circus Historical Society is a nonprofit educational organization, and at our conventions, we have anywhere between 18 and 20 presentations. We're going to issue our call for papers in next month, so watch our website for that. And if you'd like to give a presentation, please submit it. It tells you, the website will tell you how to do that. Again, I hope to see you there. Chris, any final words?
Well, we have some great Circus History Lives coming up in the coming months. So I hope you'll join us in the future, and we will see you down the road.
And I'll ask Lisa and Rik if you have any final remarks.
I just want to say thank you all so very much for welcoming this project and for being as supportive as our whole community has been. And I'm just grateful, and we'll see you down the road at any show. Can't wait to see you.
And thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. See you down the road, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.